All right, we are streaming, so thanks for being here, everyone. So the quote of the week is be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. It's a Steve Jobs quote. If you're interested in upcoming meetups, we have topics set for, I think, the next 19 sessions. So you can just kind of look at that.
519 sessions.
On the meetup page. Pro tip for today, I thought this was really cool. I didn't even know this existed, but if you go into, go to the simulator, and it's a, you can actually slow down this animations in simulator. I thought it was really cool. So it's a Command T. So I'm just going to show you real quick how quickly this transition is. This is a circular transition. I think it's a really cool transition between view controllers. That's really cool, isn't it? So this is a new view controller, and it closes it. It's really cool. It's kind of fast, yeah? So if you're debugging it, you can hit Command T. So watch how slow it goes now. So it's really good for debugging, and I wanted to share that too. And to turn it back off, you do Command T again. That's it.
Never had to use that yet.
Yeah. So feel free to use that. I'm going to close on the simulator now. A bit of housekeeping. I think you guys have all been to HICapacity before, but talking about the Hawaii iOS Developer Meetup, please keep any kind of communication just through the Meetup page so everyone can share it and see what we're talking about. It's also good if you can't make it, if you've RSVP'd, to let me know that you can't make it. I appreciate that. And then finally, we're very lucky to be here at HICapacity Makerspace. If you're interested in becoming a member, go to their website right there. Last bit of housekeeping, bathroom is right outside and to the right, and the key is on that black lanyard right there. Any questions before we keep going? Okay. So I want to share two free tools. I always share this at every meetup. I love these two so much, these two free tools. One is Spectacle app, and it allows me to resize with keyboard combinations. It's fantastic. I use it all the time. And the other one is Screen Hero. So that's actually what we're using right now. I'm logged into Screen Hero right now, and I'm streaming my screen and the capability to use the keyboard and the mouse on my computer to anyone who I screen share with. So right now I'm screen sharing with Jesse, and we're doing that so that we can kind of show this screen on the YouTube channel that we're live streaming right now. So I just went over housekeeping, free tools, and so I just want to go over the agenda for tonight. So we're going to do introductions, and you can feel free to participate in the topic of tonight, which is going to be vibrations and haptic feedback. Just a quick question. Hey, Tyler. Does anyone have an iPhone 7? Anybody have an iPhone 7 here? Oh, okay. The reason I ask is that specifically for tonight's session, there are different capabilities in haptic feedback on any kind of iOS device, but the iPhone 7 and 7S Plus has a special haptic feedback capabilities in it. So I wrote some code, and the project we're going to be going over tonight has a distinction between those two, iPhone 7 capabilities and everything else. So how about let's go into introductions next. And does anyone want to start first? If not, I'll start first. My name is David Neely. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. Grew up about 5 minutes away from here. Currently working on a like a physics-based math game. It was kind of my original project. I'm updating it with SK Sprite Kit right now. And right now, I guess I'm stuck on, I guess my sprite kits right now, I have 7 sprites, circle sprites with physics on them that I need to initialize to drop from the top of the screen to be collected at the bottom. And right now, I'm initializing them all at once, so they're just like being initialized and just popping out of the screen. So what I need to do, I kind of feel like I have a good read on it, is I need to create a timer that creates each of these sprites, so it drops them one at a time so they don't collide on initialization. I'm interested in learning more about ad hoc distribution, and I guess my interests outside of programming and computers is music. Anybody else want to go next?
Do you play an instrument?
I do. I play like the drums and the guitar. Do you play instruments too?
Long time ago.
Oh, nice.
As a drummer.
Oh, wow, nice. Cool. For a local band or?
More like school bands.
Oh, cool.
I do like.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's good fun, drums.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to go next? Brad, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so, yeah, my first name is Brad. Yeah, I'm from here. Well, I'm originally from Kauai. What am I working on? I am working on an Elasticsearch tutorial. What am I stuck on? I guess I'm stuck on Elasticsearch.
Until
What do
you're
I
out of it,
learn
right?
more about? I guess I'm learning about Elasticsearch. Well, actually, just all kinds of stuff I learned about. Just everything. And I thought this was actually kind of interesting. I'm kind of keen into it.
Cool,
What
cool.
are my interests outside of programming computers? It's hard to say. It's been everything for like the last 2 years. Before that, I used to do a lot of painting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like portraits or still lifes? Or...
Oh yeah,
Right on.
I'm a painter.
Wow.
And that's my I graduated studio art degree. in
Wow,
painting
wow.
and stuff.
Right on.
Yeah, and it happened to computers too, but that's
It's great to have those two just like completely different things, right?
right.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but
It's great.
that's me.
Nice. Thanks, Rad. Joanne, you just want to go next?
Hi, I'm Joanne. I'm from Waialua, and I'm not really stuck on anything. I just wanted to rekindle my interest in iOS and be exposed to it. So I'm just kind of jumping in to see if I can. It changes a lot every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see what the latest things were. See if I could maybe get a project of my own going at some point. I don't do anything besides computers.
Oh,
This is my hobby tonight.
sensing a theme here.
Yep.
All
I
right.
like that too.
Tyler, you want to go next?
Okay, so I'm Tyler Aratani. I'm from here. I'm not working anything right now in Swift, or yeah. So and then I want to learn like I want to learn more about Swift, and then I don't have any interests outside of computers.
Cool. Che?
Okay, I'm Che. I'm a fully fledged app developer myself, working on a massive iOS project called EcoCube. But of course, because of the sensitivity, I'm under an NDA. Like I said, I've been working on this thing from Swift 1, 1.2 to 3. Now I'm gonna have to do 3.1. You know, with a long-standing projects, you know, I learned about project management, learning new techniques, new tools, and eventually business management as well.
Nice, nice.
But the thing is, I'm not stuck on anything, and I wish I could come more often, but because of the nature of my work and it's really crunch time for me, the earliest I can come back probably is in March or April, depending on the situation.
Well,
but
thanks.
it's good to see all you guys because me and my partner got sick over the weekend because of this weather. So we're gonna take a little hiatus as a
All right.
result.
All right.
So
Well,
it's good to see you guys,
thanks for being here.
of course.
All right.
Tyler,
So,
how do you spell your name?
TYLER.
Oh, Tyler. I keep hearing it, Tyler.
Yeah.
okay. So thanks for the introductions. Jenny, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jenny. I'm Dave's wife. I'm here just to watch the meetup and see what's going on. I am working on learning Python. I have a children's book that I'm trying to learn about coding. I'm at stage 0. So I'm here for inspiration.
Cool.
Is
Have
Python
you
your
gone through the
first?
dark art of coding?
I have not.
Dark art of coding. The dark lord of coding.
All right.
Oh
done.
yeah.
I need to, what is it called?
It's the meetup on every other
Oh yeah.
Wednesday.
I
Oh,
go
it's
to
a
that.
meetup.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Actually,
Is it free?
there
I
is
don't
a
know.
there's a yeah. I've been trying to learn Python. I've been learning Python. There's a nice app on the iPhone and iPad called Pythonista, which
Oh.
does
Ooh.
you get the latest one because it has Python 3.5, and I'll show you after.
Cool, cool.
Okay. And yeah, I've done a little bit of Code Academy,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm not very far in. And I generally work in more human services side of things, so far away from this kind of stuff.
In a way, it's a good thing because, truthfully, with all this coding, it can drive you crazy after a while.
Yeah.
You know that.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, because the problem is, I'm really learning about developing and also working with people. It's a balance. You can't be doing this all day, but at the same time, because you got to communicate. And I'll tell you one thing: as much as coding is fun, then you do need to take a break. Because the problem with doing all this, even Dave, is that you do something complex, you can get tunnel vision, and you just and that's happened to me recently. So I had to take a break.
Well, thank you guys for letting me sit in.
No worries.
It's Pi Hawaii.
Pi Hawaii.
Pi Hawaii.
Okay.
Hi, Hawaii.
I gotta
Thank
see
you.
those guys.
Okay, so tonight's discussion topic is vibrations and haptic feedback. So I kind of wanted to share some of my research from just preparing for this meetup today. Our research shows that it's possible to make the iPhone vibrate, but if you want to get your app in the App Store, don't make it vibrate too much. It's kind of just don't do crazy vibrations. Don't have it like just vibrate all the time. Your app won't get accepted. That being said, it's possible to do just a simple vibration with, I think, 3 lines of code, and then a bit more complicated with some of the capabilities in the iPhone 7, which I mentioned earlier. And finally, if you're interested in looking at the code that's been created for tonight's talk, it's on the Hawaii iOS Developer Meetup GitHub organization page. And the URL is right there. It's also been posted on the Meetup page for tonight's Meetup, so you can find a link on there too. Any other comments before we dive into the code? Anyone have any questions? Okay, if not, I'm just going to go right into it. And it is now almost 6:15, so I think that going through the code will take about 30 minutes. That'll take us to about 6:45, and I think we'll just stop there and then just have open discussion, whatever you guys want to talk about, and go from there. So here we go. So here's the code for tonight. And I'll make it bigger, Command, comma. I'm going for presentation, so we can all see it, and I'll start from the top. So, here we go. We have a regular single view application here, and I'll zoom in a bit, and I'm just gonna go from the top. I'm looking directly just at the view controller. So all of this is just boilerplate code, which I've added in an audio toolbox and some haptic feedback. So I'm just gonna be looking at the view controller right now. So I'll get a bit further out here, and zoom out a bit, and then we'll go through the code. Boilerplate, and then so you need to import this to do vibrations. So it's just importing audio toolbox. Next thing I did, actually, you know what? I'm gonna just run this so you guys can see what it does. And I think maybe that'll give us an idea of the goal of this code before we actually dive into it. So I'm running it and waiting for the simulator to come up. See it on my screen. So I'm going to talk while it's loading, just because it's going to take a while. So all I've done is I've updated the main storyboard to have a single button that calls an action. And that action that it calls is called Buzz Phone. What I've done inside of Buzz Phone is I've created a constant called kind of iPhone, and I've created a method called determine kind of iPhone. And inside of this method, we find out what kind of device this code is running on. So this right here is the action that gets run when I click on this button, which I've labeled Buzz Phone. When I click it, it says Buzz Phone called. So it's pretty straightforward. This Buzz Phone called is a function that just makes the iPhone vibrate. And it's also finding out through this click what kind of device this is. So with that being said, I'm going to go back into the code. I'm going to stop it. And I'll go back to the code and just talk about it through. You guys feel free to stop me anytime along the way if you have any questions. I've also added like legit comments this time, so I'm happy to talk about that too. So here, we'll talk about the action. Checks the kind of iPhone. I'll go directly into this, and we see this. So the function determine kind of iPhone returns a string, and that string has the model type of the iPhone. And that gets put in here. And it either, if it finds that it's not an iPhone 7, it does a regular buzz. If it is an iPhone 7, it does a Buzz Phone for iPhone 7. Any questions so far? Okay. So I'm going to go from the top and discuss the code that determines what kind of iPhone this is. You can just copy and paste this for your own code, and you can have maybe different kinds of account for different kinds of screen resolution or different capabilities on the types of devices. So I'm going to go into determining the kind of iPhone. I know I've got it in here somewhere. And so it's right here. So it's this function right here. And I've also included the location of where I found this code. so you can kind of follow it back to where it is. So this code right now, it prints out that it's being called. This is just a comment, so we're disregarding it. And then we set kind of a counter we're calling current buzz index, and we're incrementing it every single time this function gets called, so that when it comes through, this actually is a member variable that we can see defined outside of the function at the top. It's just set to 0. So we go back in here, and we see that every single time this function gets called, this counter gets incremented, and it calls a different section of this switch statement. So let's say the first time it gets called, it's going to be initialized, I guess, at 0, and it's going to be incremented before this gets called. So the first time it gets called, it creates this generator with UI notification feedback generator, which is located. I actually don't think that you need to bring this in with anything. I think it maybe comes in with UIKit. I'm going to actually delete this because it's a double import. I'll go back to this. So we have 3 different kinds of generators: error, success, and warning. And then we also have a UI impact feedback generator, light, medium, and heavy. So these, like I mentioned before, I don't have an iPhone 7, so I can't test these. But if you guys know someone with an iPhone 7, I'd appreciate it if you do download it and test it on a device, if you can let me know that these actually work. But I'm going kind of on what has been posted online. So I just kind of want to underscore that these things will only work for an iPhone 7. And then now I'm going to flip over to a regular buzz for the iPhone. It's just a regular iPhone, and all iOS devices support this. So that's going to be, I'm sorry, I actually jumped ahead a bit. I'm going to keep going with it though, because I talked about the iPhone 7 buzzes. Now I'm going to talk about regular, all other devices. And that's simply just this. All I've done is I've imported Audio Toolbox, and then it lets me call this single function that when I call just buzzes the device. It's very straightforward, and it's just pretty simple. So that's that. I've mentioned the iPhone 7, all the different functions that you can get it to vibrate, and I've also mentioned all the other devices that have a single vibrate function. The final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss how to determine the device that this is running on. Yeah, John?
The argument case systems, is a different kind of combination of sound or
This line 57 right here?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this is just making it vibrate, yeah. Pretty standard way of making it vibrate.
Oh, I see. The audio source is a generic.
Yeah, so this is defined inside of the Audio Toolbox. It's important. Did I answer your question? Okay. So now I'm going to go down to the device discovery, let's call it, and go from the top. I've also mentioned the source right here, so you can click on this to find out where I got this code. And I've also, inside of this code, let's just bring it up so you guys can see what it looks like. And I've got it on this screen, so I'll bring up this screen, make it full screen, and then I'll also import. So this has Swift 2, but it also has Swift 3. I've updated, I think, a little bit of code. It's pretty simple and straightforward code. We get the string. It's an extension on UI device, and it just goes through. There's a switch statement on what kind of device it finds, and it just returns what it is. So what I've done in my code is, because I'm only interested in isolating devices that are running on a iPhone 7 or 7S Plus, I've only copied the iPhone 7, where is it? These 2 lines right here. And then I figure everything else is not an iPhone 7. So I'll move back over to my code, and we'll go from the top. So I've pretty much copied the code from that link. We determine what kind of device this is, and then right at the bottom, we're switching based on the identifier. If it is an iPhone, if it comes up with these attributes, it's definitely an iPhone 7. If it's not, I'm going to return it's not an iPhone 7. And that's what we're calling at the top here. Determine kind of iPhone, set it for kind of iPhone, check to see that this is not an iPhone 7 and buzz the phone. But if it is an iPhone 7, we buzz the phone for iPhone 7. So I've gone through determining what kind of device this is, setting up an action, calling that action with a button inside of the main storyboard, and then also if it is an iPhone 7, calling the specific iPhone 7 haptic feedback. If it's not, calling it regular feedback. That's the end of this project, and I feel like I made it simple enough that you can just copy and paste stuff into your own projects if you're interested in that. And this gets to the end of kind of this review of this project. So I kind of wanted to take time if you guys have any questions about it, or you wanted to discuss anything about haptic feedback. Maybe now would be a good time. Okay.
I noticed that
Sure.
in the audio tools, audio services play alert sound. That seems to be like the umbrella that does anything to do with audio, or I guess in this case the vibration method too.
I guess I personally use AV Framework instead of audio services, like play alert sound, I guess. Is that kind of what you're meaning?
Or I mean, like, I guess how they categorize that service. Because I noticed it says audio services play alert sound, and then system sound ID vibrate is like the param that they send into it. You know, so it's kind of like they consider just the vibrate without audio still an audio service.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah.
So I was like, huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I do have a feeling that it's going to shift over. I mean, who am I to say what Apple's going to do? But I do get the impression that any phones or devices coming out after the iPhone 7 is going to have this kind of capability. And then I guess the naming is a bit clearer on these, that they're feedback generators, generated notification occurred. So it seems to be a cleaner, or going in the right direction.
Right. No, because those phone call, that's more like legacy stuff.
I think that this stuff is legacy. Yeah. This one.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Any other questions about haptic feedback? If not, I'm going to switch over to Swift 3 comments. And in the past, with all the meetups, I'm writing just like straightforward code, and I felt like some people have mentioned like, oh, maybe we should start commenting code. So with this project, I started commenting it out fully. I'm going to collapse all the code so we can see what it looks like, and I'm going to kind of just go through briefly why we comment it this way. So does anyone know what a mark is, or why you would use it? And I'm talking specifically about this one right here. Why would you use this? Does that make sense?
Is that a Swift thing?
Yep, yeah. This is a Swift thing. So this is kind of a conversion. So I think a lot of us have done Objective-C in the past.
Yeah.
And we're used to seeing Pragma mark, right?
Yep.
Is it the same?
Yeah, so this is the updated version in Swift of kind of commenting it out. So the mark allows you to create barriers between your code segments.
So is there like a drop down?
Yeah. So with this right here, with the mark, so I'm going to just kind of talk before I show, well, I'll show what it looks like. So we've got a mark. I'll zoom in a bit so we can all see it. It specifically finds out what kind of iOS device this is running on this code. We'll zoom in, and it comes up like this. So it's easy for me to just segment out my code and just jump to it much easier. I did this in Objective-C, but this is the first project where I've done this with Swift, and I'm finding it's a lot easier to jump around. Usually I end up collapsing all of my code so I can see it all. But if it is uncollapsed like this, it's really helpful to be able to jump to functions just with this guy. So what I've done is I've mentioned that there is, this is the updated Pragma mark style in Swift. And next what I want to do is I want to talk about the pieces of this mark, because I think it's helpful. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to copy this line so we can see maybe 3 different variations of mark, so we can see how it functions differently. So first I'm going to do just I deleted that. I'm going to do just a regular mark so we can see what this looks like. And then I'm going to do a mark with just a line. And then we should see the 3 different styles, yeah. So we're going to mark with all these. So now, anyone have any predictions of what the difference is between these? Okay, let's just look at it. So, here we see we have the first one, we've got, I'm going to move it over a bit. We've got mark dash text, right? So with this one, it creates the mark, so I'm sorry, the mark right here, this little icon. And then the next piece is going to be this little dash, and this little dash creates the line right above it. And then the text right after is the label that you put right here. So that's why on our next line we have a regular mark, and then on the next one we have a line mark. I'm not sure if that's showing up the two differences between them. So I'm going to take this one out and just see what that renders like. Okay, you know what? I'm not sure that there is a difference between these two. Actually, you know what? It's going to be like this. So ASDF, and then I'll put a line here so we can see the difference between the two. Does that make sense right there? So we've got everything in this one, line, mark, text. The next one we have just mark and text, and then the next one we have just line. So that's kind of just showcasing the difference between those three. And I'd say that this is really, the reasons I've found to utilize this in code is really just this jump menu. I don't really see any other benefits of it. But do any of you guys see any benefits of doing this otherwise?
It's organization, really.
Yeah, really, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just clean up my code real quick, and then what I want to do next is I want to talk about the documentation that is created in these next 3 comments. But before I do that, I want to know if you guys have any questions, any comments. Okay. If not, I'm going to go into this. So why would we do this? Why would we put this in? And why 3 forward slashes? The reason we do that is that when we define it like this, we're able to create documentation for ourselves, maybe when we're a different class, and we want to figure out what exactly is this method, determine kind of iPhone. Well, what we can do now is if we go into different sections of this class, or maybe different classes that reference this bit of code, we can actually, and I'm going to just jump over to something else where this is being called from. So I'm going to zoom out a bit so I can see it. So I see it's called right here, but let's say that I can't see this piece of function. I just don't know what this does. Maybe I'm jumping into this code base that someone else has created. I just want to know what it is. The great thing about setting up this kind of documentation inside of your code is now when I don't have access to this, I can actually come right into this thing and I can hold down Option. You see how it turns into a little question mark?
Option.
I'm holding Option, and then I'm going to click on it, and it shows me all this stuff. It shows me the declaration, shows me the function signature. I know it's a function. I know it takes no parameters, and I know it returns a string. And I know all of this without even having to navigate to where this is defined.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be very useful for me because I have a file with, my project has over 200 files.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
Is it Option?
Option click.
Okay, Option click.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta remember that one
Yeah.
because like I said, I have a file that has hundreds of files. So
Yeah.
over 200. So finding stuff can be a pain.
Anything that helps, right?
Yeah. So I got all these little things.
So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to talk about how this is created, because it's kind of just a very standardized method of creating this for every function that you want to define it on. I've left out a few attributes of this documentation for brevity's sake, and I'm just going to cover kind of just the definition of what it does, the parameters, and the returns.
Oh, the triple slash is the markdown.
Yep.
It's the markdown. Oh, yeah. I just kind of figured out indirectly, but yeah, when you do that triple slash, it does a markdown of the documentation.
Right.
Okay, I gotta start using it.
This is just in Swift 3?
This is just in, I don't know if you can do it in Swift 2.
But
maybe you can, I'm not sure.
I would suggest that at this point you have to go with Swift 3 and above.
Yeah,
because
I
they
would just
stuck
stick with
it.
Swift 3. The latest. It's supported the latest.
It's cleaner, and they fixed up a few stuff too.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Did you want to talk about that for a bit? What you like about what's been updated? Or?
Yeah, I just found out Swift 3.1. They added a few things, and they addressed some of the stuff that was mentioned in that book, Advanced Swift, about with some of the collection protocols. They fixed a few things here and there, and I know I do subscribe to Natasha.
I do too now. Yeah.
I 1 week it noticed Swift 3.1. That newsletter, one of them talked about some of the changes and then gives you the link.
Okay.
Every week I get those. Every Monday I think. I know she did it for 2 weeks.
I wanted to share one resource with all of you. It's Swift Unboxed, and it is. I'm listening to a Swift Coder podcast right now, and this guy he's kind of, it's not very heavy on it's heavy on programmer talk, but he's coming kind of from like a novice's programmer point of view. The presenter of the podcast. And he interviewed the guy who is the owner and the guy who creates posts on swiftunboxed.com. And that guy, I feel like I looked at some of his articles, and he has a really good ability to make like technical topics kind of just like open them up in almost an artistic way. Like he'll bring in like pictures, and he has a really good voice to his posts. So something I wanted to share. swiftunboxed.com.
Right.
That is the podcast.
So there, I mentioned two things. I can actually get you the name of the podcast itself. But his...
Swift Unbox is the site.
Yeah, swiftunboxed.com is his site. And then Swift Coders is a podcast. And it's pretty good. It's kind of light, though, in the beginning. But it gets the point across and gets you maybe pumped up for Swift. So John, it just looks like that. It's just Swift Coders, the podcast. Okay, so I mentioned that I was going to talk about these pieces, and it's pretty straightforward. So at the beginning, we just talk about what this function does in one sentence. If you can get it down to one sentence, fantastic. If you can't, just write as much as you want. But keeping it to one sentence and one line really cuts down on the cognitive load when you're dealing maybe with 200 files like Che is.
Yeah.
So really great to be able to just read one sentence and understand what this is without having to jog your memory of what it's, how it's composed and everything. And the final two pieces on that are going to be parameters and returns. So we can see, actually, I'm seeing a problem with my code right now that I haven't specified that this is actually returning a string. So I'm going to update this and say string of kind of iPhone. And I'm not going to put a period at the end of this because it's not a sentence. I'm just saying this is a string that says the kind of iPhone. It doesn't take anything, so there's no parameters. That's pretty much it. Do this for all of your code, and then you can kind of just click around like I had shown before, and it shows you. Oh, sorry, I put a command on that one. I'm holding that option. Turns into a little question mark. Click it, and it shows my description. And I'm thinking that maybe I potentially am not doing the syntax of this correctly, because these should actually be on their own lines. So I will, I'm making a note to myself to update the repo.
Is this only on Xcode?
This should work in like playgrounds, or if you have a Swift file. You should be able to do this kind of documentation.
I see.
Because that thing, I have to look into it, but you could do other kinds of comments as well.
Right. You can do warnings, like there's all
like that,
kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in it, I guess maybe just search for Swift 3 Markdown. It'll give you all these details.
I think this could possibly be Xcode specific, but there's other.
Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying.
Could be. I have to take a look at that. But there's. I know you could do some kind of Markdown anyways.
Right.
There are code. You can do that.
Okay, so I'm checking the time real quick.
6:36.
So 6:36 right now. I've gone over the vibrations. I've also mentioned marks, and I've also mentioned documentation. Now I wanted to know if you guys had any questions about Swift or iPhone programming that maybe we could cover in the future, or if you're interested, we could create a playground and mess with some code. Up to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But how about let's take maybe a 5-minute break. Guys, you to use the bathroom or anything? I'm gonna get a drink of water. But let's take a break real quick, and we'll come back at exactly. It's 6:37 now. It's 6:42? Would be good for that. All right.
It's cool with it. I mean, like the to-dos and fix me's and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it has like, but it's like basically the same thing. All it is
Yeah.
is fixes. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's no, is there any like actual functionality? That is horrible.
Yeah, it's just basically marketing.
Huh. Wait, so that's a Swift thing? That's a Swift thing or an Xcode?
I know that. Could I know? That's a good question.
I mean, that's cool that Swift is enforcing a certain kind of documentation.
No. But my favorite tool when I code in Swift is the playgrounds. It's been an extremely valuable prototyping tool. And my two favorite tools, the two Pythonista and Swift playgrounds.
Awesome. Is that the one they have at the Apple Store too?
Hmm?
You just like mess with it and
Yeah.
have the amazing life.
Yeah. No, I've been actually using it for real work. Sure. Hold
That's
on.
funny.
No, I've been actually using it for work too. Like this, the bite to rebuild my grid. Just build those stuff and then test out all the stuff here. Is my butt struck to rebuild this thing here. I think I showed you a while back. I lost because my computer crashed.
Wait, it's not your FPGA?
Yes, this. Yeah.
Wait, you develop on an iPad?
Huh? What?
You develop on an iPad?
Yeah. Just to use the bigger screen. Done in Swift. And
Yeah, that's first. I've never seen somebody with an iPad as their main type machine. That's just crazy.
No, I did it in Xcode, but I'm using this as to rebuild because I lost that code when my computer died.
Oh dang!
But I figured out how to do it because I was to make it very flexible. But one thing we should cover in the future is, as you notice, Dave, is the which was covered in Swift 2, is protocol extensions.
Protocol extensions.
It's covered in the advanced Swift.
Right. And do you mean like this, Trey? Like extensions?
Yes,
Okay.
but the thing is, create a protocol, which is like Java, the interfaces,
Right.
categories. The extensions is a Swift version of categories in Objective C.
Okay.
So you can create a protocol because I find myself writing so much freaking boilerplate, repeating, copy and paste. That gets annoying so much. What I did is create a abstract base class, a protocol, which is basically an interface with all the required properties.
Right.
And I think in Swift 2 and above, you can do what you call default implementations. Because if you don't want to, what that means is like there's some functions I find myself copying pasting on my other code that I get annoyed. I know this is the same, so I just write it as a protocol. And make an extension to the protocol, put my functions with the default, implement it, put a default implement. Yeah, it's a factory, exactly. The thing is, and have a default implementation, if I call it, so that it's defined within the protocol extension, so that if I don't need to change it, I use the default implementation. But I can override it by creating my own implementation when I need to.
Can I ask you a follow-up question? So
Go for it.
with your protocols, are you adding like variables? Are you adding variables or functions?
Both.
Both.
Properties.
Okay.
Properties as well as methods.
Right.
As functions.
Right.
The methods.
And
You can do both.
And
And it does cover it.
A follow-up question is, Jay, are you updating your code to be more functional?
I'm gonna start doing it because I'm finding myself reiterating.
Right,
But,
right.
However, functional programming has its drawbacks to it.
Like what?
Like
Want to talk about it?
Recursion. Like if you performance, I mean, but this is in general computer science case. Recursion, the problem with recursion, like if like Fibonacci, it ends up using the stack, and it's easy to get stack overflow. So what I would do, either do tail recursion or do it iteratively. It really depends on what kind of.
What was the first thing you said? What about recursion?
There's a technique to avoid excessive recalling using tail recursion,
Tail recursion. Okay.
or there's another technique I learned when I first learned about the advanced Swift. And this was when it first came out. It's called memoization. This is something I learned in keeping like values in, so you don't have to do recursion. So there's many techniques. This is stuff that's usually covered in like algorithms classes. I assume you know some little algorithms, but
Memorization is basically caching.
it is caching. It's a form of caching. Making memos. It's very efficient too.
Okay, so we just did a little bit of a break. We've got about 15 minutes left, and is there anything specific you guys want to talk about or focus on? Or see a playground or write some code? We can do the block syntax.
Yeah, I think we need to get more familiar with closure.
Okay, we're going to do the same. We're going to go for it again. So we're going to cover that website that we did last week, where we went from the top to the
The one
bottom,
with the
functional.
unspeakable name
Yes.
that
What
I
was it
wrote
called?
down I got to the site, but I couldn't find that section.
Oh, okay. Let's. I'll bring it up. So we're going to do
And then you
the.
can also reference the book Advanced Swift about.
Yeah,
It has a
I would
good
like
section.
to. Yeah. Can
And
you?
If you have any questions, I can answer based on.
Maybe what would be helpful is if you could identify a code section inside of Advanced Swift
Okay.
that we could talk about.
Okay.
That'd be good. And then in the meantime, I'm going to go to that unspeakable name website, and then
I like that site.
I got it bookmarked.
I love that.
Okay, so we're going to go
Because
from
I'm
the top.
finding myself
I'm going to set up another
cursing myself.
playground. I'm going to save this and
Yeah.
close it real
Wait,
quick.
that's actual site name? I do.
Okay, so we're creating a new playground. I'm going to call this blocks. Block. Zoom in. I also want to share one thing. So you guys see me zooming in. This is an accessibility feature of Mac, and I find it really helpful, especially when it's like super late and my eyes are super sore and I'm squinting at this 12-point code font.
Yeah.
This is fantastic to be able, because you can do this on any screen on your computer. It's like, I can't see this right now. So it's just so nice to be able to just zoom in right here and I can see everything, so I'm not, So all I'm doing with that one, I've set up a key combination for myself to hold down the command key, and then just using 2 fingers to scroll. It's just fantastic and it saves my eyes. If you're interested in this, I'm happy to look it up afterward and share it. Or I can share it at the next meetup too. So I'm just going to finish up setting up this playground. Jenny! My wife went the wrong way. It's that way, it's out.
Yeah.
And then to the right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go block syntax, and then I'm going to create this playground. I'm going to just put it in here. So we're just going to do this playground again, close out this one. And I'm using Spectacle, it's a fantastic tool to Command Option, move it to the side. All right, so we're going to go, and we're just going to go from the top. Does anybody want to lead this discussion at all? Read this off? I'm happy to, but if anyone wants to.
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
'Cause I-
Swift closures and functions. Do we know what closures are? Yeah. I struggle myself trying to find a way to describe it, but let's look at this one. This website says closures are first-class objects. So what does a first-class object mean? It means you can pass it around, right?
Yep.
So they can be nested and passed around, and maybe I'll make this a bit bigger so you guys can see.
Okay. According to, there's, I think, 3 properties. Wait, I'm just reading from the
Yeah,
advanced
please,
one.
please.
It says the first feature to understand functions and closures, you really need to understand 3 things. roughly this order of importance. Functions can be assigned to variables and passed in and out of other functions as arguments. Like int string,
Mhm.
you can treat functions like variables. Function name
Mhm.
for variable.
Mhm. Mhm.
And two, functions can capture variables that exist out of the local scope. And
Okay.
I think
It comes up in this, right?
yeah. And then there's two ways of creating functions. You can use the func
Right.
keyword or with the bracket.
Curly braces.
Curly braces are closures. In fact, functions are basically closures. Just
Named
with a-
closures.
Yeah, global closures. There's the local ones, because when you put the brackets, it's similar to like closures in JavaScript and stuff. It's called an anonymous function, and like in Python, it's called it lambda.
Oh, okay. I've
Yeah.
heard that word, but I've never known what it meant.
Yes, these anonymous functions, because it doesn't have a word func, but they are func.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about what Che just mentioned?
The second one takes a little bit more examples to see.
That's the one I'm most interested in that I don't really get because it has some kind of encapsulation.
Yes,
That
encapsulate.
doesn't, I don't, yeah. And then because you run the same closure and you set it to a different variable, it like keeps that.
Yes,
But it keeps state, and I don't understand. It seems like it's state, but it's not, right? It's like it's internal variable.
Okay, in Swift 3, this is very important. Swift 3, because people had issues with like strong references, what they did is by default all the closures are non-escaping. That means if the variable if the value that's captured in there goes away. If you want that
Okay.
thing to
Okay.
go away, you have to mark it as escape.
Escaping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the book Advanced Swift covers the issue what happens because closures are reference types.
Pass by reference.
Yes,
Okay.
the reference types, so they may cause issues.
Right.
Basically, creating the self might capture itself, creating a strong reference, and it does cover. Yeah, that takes a little bit more.
I feel
explanation.
like we're getting really deep into closures, and maybe for the good of the group, we'll go over this
Yeah.
to talk about it from the top, like as simple as possible, and then it gets deeper and
Exactly.
deeper, and then if we have time, we can talk about.
Yeah, that's why.
Is there more episodes?
Yeah, I would love. I mean, yeah, this is something I know. Like it just takes like we mentioned, reading the Swift book, read it through the first time, don't really understand it, come back to it a second time, understand it a little more. So kind of that's the
Exactly.
way we're attacking closures in the
Okay.
meetup. Like
Yeah.
I think this is the 4th or 5th time that we've done
Maybe we can
closures.
get the chapter and then read
Absolutely, yeah.
this.
Get the advanced Swift.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Because I have to actually really start utilizing it now.
Okay. All right. So I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have about 10 minutes. So how about we just blitz through this article
Yes.
and then just ask questions along the way if you
Yeah.
have any. I'm copying and pasting code so I don't take any extra time. I'm going to just read it really quickly, and we're just going to keep coming to this over and over. So here we go. Closures in Swift are similar to blocks in C and Objective-C. Closures are first-class objects, so they can be nested and passed around as do blocks in Objective-C. In Swift, functions are just a special case of closures. So first we're going to define a function. You can define a function with the func keyword. We all know this already. Functions can take and return none, one, or multiple parameters, tuples. Return values follow the arrow sign. So I'm going to copy and paste this. Oops. Copy. Pasting it into the playground, and then we should see it return back once we get a call. So I'm going to call this Jedi greet. And see if it does code completion for me. There we go. And I bring up code completion just with the escape key. I think all of us Objective-C programmers remember that. I'm going to put in my name. And I'll zoom in a bit so we can see. And then my ability is going to be playing the guitar. Okay, so we call it, and then we see that this function takes in my name, takes in my ability, and then it returns. I'm getting lost here. it returns two variables named farewell and may the force be with you. And then I guess I'm struggling with how to classify these two pieces because I feel like these are named returns. Che, would you be able to comment on that? Would these be named returns? This is me just naming the strings that are being returned, right? So that I'm able to
Yes, you're
naming them.
named
These two.
Yeah.
So these precede the actual closure, which is right here. Are we even in a closure yet?
Yes, a function is
This
a
one.
special case of a closure.
So this is the end. Okay, I see. Now I see the two
Yeah.
brackets. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the closure right here. Okay. Anybody have any questions? If not, I'm going to move on. So we called the function already. This is Swift 2. If you ever see this print line stuff, that's Swift 2. You just have to update it to print. And Xcode does it for you. I'm going to zoom out a bit so we can see all of this stuff. Every function has its own function type made up of the parameter types and the return type of the function. For example, the following function. FuncSum takes in an x and y that are both ints and returns named variable result of type int, and here is the return, right? The method body. So it's going to return the x plus the y. I think we all kind of get that. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so when we talk about function type, we're talking about the method signature of what it takes in and what it spits out, really. So it takes two integers, returns an integer. So that's kind of the function type. Function types can thus be used as parameter types or as return types for nesting functions. So passing and returning functions, the following function is returning another function as its result, which can be later assigned to a variable. So I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, and we're going to call it. So we're using a let to create a constant of train. We're calling Jedi trainer with no arguments, and it's being set to train. Now when we run train, we pass it ob1 and the number 3. So this kind of, to me, requires a bit of explanation, because what this looks like is a function that's assigning to a variable, or a constant really. But what's actually happening here is this function is returning a function that we're calling train. Then we're calling that function right here with these two parameters. Does anyone have any questions about that? Because that's kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah, a little weird.
But why wouldn't we just call Jedi trainer?
Exactly, right? You could call this one and maybe redo this function so that you don't need to be returning a function.
But it's holding something. It's extending the life of something.
It is, right. So this is capturing. Right, Che?
Yeah.
This is capturing a variable and returning it. Name and times, right? So let's go on with the text. Variadic functions. This is basically saying that you can put in a ton of parameters and it's not going to stop you. You can change the amount of parameters you put in with this ... Variadic functions are functions that have a variable number of arguments indicated by ... after the argument, accessed into their body as an array. I'm going to go full screen. That can be accessed into their body as an array. So let's go over this function. Function Jedi Blade color takes in multiple colors and returns nothing. It goes through that list of colors for coloring colors and just prints out what color it is. So just kind of to be a completionist about this, I'm going to copy this in. And we can see once it runs, come on, we're just waiting right here. Come on. Okay, so I have error in here that is giving me a suggestion to change. And in Swift 3 as opposed to Swift 2, you need to name your parameter right here. So that's what it was having an error with. Also, I'm seeing that it's giving me an error here. Swift 2 should just be print
Yeah.
or Swift 3. So now it's running, compiling, running, and we should see it print out right here. Oh, so it ran 2 times. So I'm going back into this document. I think we're maybe about halfway through, or maybe pretty much through it. I'm just going to check on the time. Got 3 more minutes. Defining a closure. Closures are typically enclosed in curly braces and are defined by a function type, void, returns void, where the arrow separates the arguments in the return type followed by the in keyword. I don't know why this is going so wide. Which separates the closure header from its body. So this is the part that I was mentioning where we have these named parameters. This is what we're passing in, and then this is where we actually do the work of the function. So an example could be the map function applied to an array. Who knows what a map function does? Can anyone kind of see what it does based on this right here? We pass in 3 Padawans. We map onto these Padawans.
Basically, you're mapping the function is a Padawan. So basically, you're not. Basically, if it's Knox has been trained. Yeah, mapping that function. You're just putting that.
Yep.
That sentence.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this would be our function right
Transforming
here.
each value, yeah.
Does that make sense, or does anyone have any questions about this?
That makes sense.
That makes sense? Okay. So I'm going to keep going. Closures with known types. When the type of closure's arguments are known, you can do as follows.
Well, how is that?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
How is that different from splitting it in a for?
By putting it in here, we are able to have, well, I guess, I'm just going to talk it out. Go ahead, Jay.
What was the question again?
Joanne, what was the question?
How would this? Maybe it's just an example, but how is it different from just putting it in a for?
It's a shorthand of having to write a for loop.
So if we had the for loop, we would have to,
For I
yeah.
in indices or whatever, and then you have to write the body of the for loop. This is another way of having not to do that. Shorter.
Well, maybe it's the example. Like, so can you say mapping is like applying? Like, would that rule change?
Yes.
Would it be helpful if I copy this into the playground and we can see it execute? Maybe
Yeah, I
mess
think
with a
it'd be
few
easier.
things? Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be easier to do so.
All right. I'm just going to blast this away because we don't care about this.
Yeah.
We've gone over it. We'll keep it really simple. And I'm going to full screen this. And then I guess I need to call this. I know. Do I need to call this? Let's see. Padawan's map. I should be seeing my result, but for some reason my screen is becoming huge. Oh, there it is. I had it a bit zoomed in. Okay, let me go over here. So I'll zoom in a bit here and we can talk about it. All right, so we've created an array right there of Padawans, right? And that's clear. Like, we don't have any questions about that, right? And now we take that array and we set a map function on it. So I think one way to look at this is kind of like, if we took out all of this, we'd see that we're just really calling a function, right? Map. But inside of this, we're setting up this. So we're setting up a function inside of map that applies this method, or this method body. I'm not sure what the right word is here. The closure body, to whatever's being passed in. So we know that we're passing in a string, right? String. And what we're doing is we're naming the. I wish there was a clearer way of like 1, 2, 3 to define this, but I'm just going to kind of jump around. We're passing in a type string, and in is the keyword to let us know that this string is inside of this array. Then we're also saying that what is returned by this is going to be of type string, and we're naming this string Padawan. Yeah?
The parameter in this case is a function.
Mm-hmm. So this parameter inside of map is this function right there.
Is that function?
Oh, I think I see. So now you can take that Padawan function and it could very well be another function. Kind of like what chain needs, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. And my understanding of closures is that if we make it generic, we're able to use these kind of closures on various kinds of types.
Yeah.
So in the same way that we are trying to limit the amount of code that we have to create by making it map instead of a for loop, we're also able, if we can get our closure as, I guess, type agnostic as possible, we're able to reuse this on different types. I mean, if it supports
Exactly.
those types.
so it could have been object or object.
It could be an int, it could be a float,
Mm-hmm.
or your own custom object.
Yep.
Like, say that. So instead of string, it can be anything.
Yeah.
So
If you
that-
make it generic,
I can update it if you want to see it change.
Oh yeah. and,
Yeah, okay.
Like, let's say you change Padawan to just being a array of strings. It was like array of like
Numbers. Okay.
numbers and strings and
Yeah.
stuff.
How about let's update this to numbers? So we're going to do piece by piece, and I kind of want to just give you guys a heads up that we're past time. If anyone has a schedule, you guys got to do something. Just feel free to go. I'm going to go Padawans 1. I'm going to pass in Padawans
I guess.
1, and then we'll wait for it to run. Oh shoot! Sorry. Let's change these to numbers. 1, 2, 3. Blast this out. All right. Let me see that run. Okay. Why do you think we have an error here?
Okay. Figure out what the
I know why, but
Cast it to string.
what is Padawan? Oh, numbers. Cat. Yeah.
yeah. So it's got to be an int, right? Or
Yes.
whatever kind of number. So how about let's go piece by piece. I'm going to update that from string to int. You think that'll run? No.
No.
But why? Why is it complaining?
I think I did change the Padawan map to string.
think
What
we
thing?
changed
Are you
this,
returning
right?
anything?
Yeah, returning this, right? But int in Padawans 2, this Padawan right here,
Right.
this is a named return actually, right? Or no, named,
Name parameter.
but this is what the function's returning, right?
Yeah.
The Padawan.
Yeah.
So what do we need to update here?
So do you need like a backslash?
So this is going to take a parameter and turn it into a string, right?
Oh, so it makes the whole thing string.
But
What?
we're
You're
sending an
expecting
int,
It's again. So you need to cast it?
right? So what, anyone propose the fix on this one? What would fix this?
For one thing, you would have to change the name parameter from a string to an int.
Right, okay. So I'm going to update this to int, right? But do we want to do
You
that?
have strings. Do you need to cast the integer to a string?
Right,
Cast could fail, however.
right. So how about let's try it?
Right there, yeah, string.
So I'm going to cast it here to return the string.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll take out this one and I'll do the cast here, string. But I'm already inside of here, so that's going to be weird.
Oh, you have to take it out and concatenate it?
So I am going to cast, I'll do a let new string equals Padawan, and I want to cast this one to a string, right? Then I use the new string. Will that work? Nope.
It's the same.
String. And so it's expecting a string, right?
No, should it be reversed? Like, so string and int, you can swap those.
Say it again, Brad?
So wouldn't you have to swap it? Because the first string is what's being
Yup.
Yep.
And then the output would be string arrays, yeah.
And then we can get rid of this.
Yeah,
We still
that would
need
make
it.
more
Yeah,
sense.
I think
Because you're turning a string, so the
Right.
like, so you could do an int.
Where? Here?
No, not there.
I like this example because it's very tight and contained.
Right.
We can get this. Let's keep trying at it.
The return value is to the right of the arrow.
Say again.
The return type is to the left of the arrow or the right of the arrow.
Did everyone hear that? The return type is to the left of the arrow or the right of the arrow?
It's always right to the arrow.
That's the return value that you're not.
This is
Yeah,
the
it has to
return
be a
value?
string.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So that should be.
It's pointing to a string.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of unclear on that too, Joanne.
Because I heard that the return value was on the left. So
Right.
that's- it looked right.
This to me seems like it should be int because it is the int inside of here,
Yes,
right?
int to int. Yeah.
Int to int. I'm unclear on that one.
Yeah, sorry, I just think.
Well, let's talk it out. So where are we specifying what type is being passed in right now onto Padawan's 1? My understanding is this one,
Yeah.
right? So this would be int, right? Because these are ints inside of Padawan 1, right?
Right.
So I'm going to update that to int. And then my understanding is that this is the named return.
Right.
Yeah. So what we're returning here is going to be a string, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should be passing back a string in here, but we need to do some kind of cast because we get an int in that we're naming. So this right here is going to be the cast for the return that we're not interested in. I'm going to just take that out to simplify things, and we'll go back into here. So now we have an int in, but how do we name this one? Is this meant to just be Padawan?
That's one.
Because this is the named return, so the int needs to be updated, right?
It should be.
I'm thinking, how about we do the conversion up here from int to string? Would that work? Yeah, let's try it. Let int return, or sorry, string return, return string equal, and now we do the cast of the, how do I refer to that? Anybody have any ideas?
Since the array has, since you're going to each element,
Mhm.
I would replace the new string, let's say, with like a variable like $0. That's a shorthand.
Oh, right, okay. So this is closure shorthand.
Yeah.
And this says that whatever the first variable is, that's what we do the operation on. And I think that's a really good point because then we don't have to deal with any kind of casting. Or we don't have to specify what kind of attribute it is. Also, the cast gets taken care of inside of here and turns whatever this is, or should turn whatever this is, into a
But if
string.
you're doing in, I assume you're returning the whole string.
I believe that's what we want to do, right?
Okay.
Or no?
Because there's an error message.
Right. Anonymous, okay, so this is an anonymous closure argument, which is the $0.
Yeah.
Cannot be used inside a closure that has explicit arguments, which is
Right.
what you mentioned. So,
Right.
Che, which part of this is the explicit argument? This one?
Yeah.
Which part of that?
The Padawan string.
Padawan string. So this is our explicit argument. So if we took this out, instead of it being named, yeah, I might do it.
No worries.
Let's do 5 more minutes on this. And on our drives home, we can be thinking about how we got this. Okay, so string returns an int in, and I'm not sure why it's not
I
building.
think you have to. I think you have to leave the Padawan though, right? Because
I'm not
that's
sure.
the
Yeah.
actual
That's the-
variable.
Yeah.
And you just specify the type for that variable.
Okay. Okay, we still got some errors though. I'm just gonna Were you gonna say something?
Maybe you might have to rewrite it.
The int is the
That's the return type.
catalyze one, which is an array.
I'm
And
gonna-
that int is addressing a single element, and that's what we need to deal with, right?
Right. So how about let's list out what we're trying to do here. We want to determine how to like really make this generic, really, right? Like how to make this generic so it can take ints along with strings. You guys want to keep going on this one? Or I can put this out to the group
Put it out
and
to
have
the-
him solve it on meetup.com?
Yeah.
I think this is a new meetup, closure puzzles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd sign
let's
up for
make
that.
it- Because there's a lot of subtleties with closures.
Right. So how about, okay, functional meetup would be fantastic. I'm gonna undo all these changes, and then I'm gonna post this as kind of a challenge on the meetup.com page. And then see if the challenge is gonna be update this from taking strings to taking integers. And we'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. We should do that.
All right. And I'm gonna,
My brain is just getting started.
I have a few things to update, so I'm not going to do this now. I'll do it from home. But does anyone have any last minute questions or comments for the good of the group? If not, thanks for being here. I think this is the 12th Hawaii iOS Developer Meetup, and I'm loving that we're in double digits. So thanks for being here. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any feedback, just post it to the Meetup page.
Okay.
Thanks. Stop the live stream.